Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk, our Optimal Health community time. And so we are so excited that you could all join us tonight. Um, my name's Mike. This is my beautiful wife, Amy, and we are going to get to guide you through a conversation with our mentor, our friend, the co-founder of Optavia, the author and creator of the Habits of Health system, Dr. Wayne Scott Anderson. So Dr. A, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight is our community time call with our clients all over the country. So I'm sure we have clients joining us tonight that this is their first day. It was Monday and their first day of their journey to optimal health and well-being. And there's people with us tonight that have optimized their health many, many years ago. And so, we just love that you're willing to take time to come in here tonight. And I know this is where your heart is. Your heart is in client support and helping people to win in their health, because that's why you started this mission. You started this mission because you saw a need and you wanted to impact and make a difference in the world. And how's your summer going? I mean, I know you're out there. You talk to us about building our life or organizing our life around what matters most and becoming the dominant force in our life. And I know you've been enjoying some sunshine. So you having a good summer so far?
Yeah, well, I have a pretty much a good time every day, Mike. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And yeah, I do. This is my favorite drill. I love to help people. I love to help coaches too. I mean, the bottom line is improving our identity, becoming a healthy person is really important, and it's extremely difficult. Walking that tightrope with all the stress and all the emotional mismanagement that's going on in the world, and the world is certainly in turmoil. It's very difficult in the obesogenic world to basically to create health. So in essence, that's where it starts. And I'll talk for a moment about what I'm doing, organizing my life around what matters. But first, let me just spend a moment saying that doing it on your own is really difficult. It really is difficult to create optimal health and well-being. In fact, most people are just barely getting by. It's because we live in the overlying area where the processed food, stress, energy saving devices are all around us. I've been talking about this for over 20 years, and yet we're losing ground on obesity. 74% of us are overweight or obese. 45% are actually obese. Mental health issues are really major problems. And most people are just reacting to what's around them, and they're not really living the life. They're not choosing to become the dominant force in your life. And, one of the things that for me, as a critical care physician, I helped pioneer that field. I worked 80 hours a week and I worked long, hard hours. It was difficult. And I realized I wore scrubs every day, and just the stresses, you have a tendency to eat things that create a little bit of momentary pleasure. And so all those things can affect you in a negative way. So when I made the decision now 23 years ago to move upstream and help people create health, the most important thing, and I'm going to talk about it, we're getting ready to have our convention this weekend. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is identity. It's actually becoming a healthy person. Resisting things that you want, like eating things that aren't healthy for us, doesn't work long term. Unless you fundamentally make the decision to change your health and change your life, you're not going to change. And what I love about what we do with our 5-in-1 and our program, we create that teachable moment. And during that period, I spent the last 20 years creating an environment where all the things that are necessary, the support, the strategies, the tactics, creating a micro environment of health, surrounding us with coaches like you guys who, you come from the chiropractic field, and you would help people. But the reality, just like a critical care physician taking care of somebody that's in the ICU, bottom line, someone would come in with somatic dysfunction, you would adjust them and tell them to eat healthier, handle the stress, and then they would go back, and then you were fixing too. So even though philosophically chiropractic medicine has always talked about a holistic approach, the reality is you were a repairman, and we were all repairmen. And I have a quote, but basically, we need to let people know that your body is not like a car that you can just take into the repair shop. It's really important we become the dominant force in our own lives. So to answer your question, before we go any further, I every day I get up and plan and organize my life around what matters most. And this is one of those things. So this is a beautiful bookend. I got up early this morning and I was actually working on my talk, and We have a low front right now, and there was a huge torrential rain here, which is very. I live on the ocean, which I love. It's my favorite drill is being on the water. And it rained and it was kind of crazy and it was just amazing to watch. And so I took 15 minutes and started my day watching the storm, not saying, "Oh, woe's me, I'm going to get wet when I go out today," but instead looking and saying, "Wow, look at the power of nature." And the wind was blowing like 30 knots, and the pelicans were all trying to huddle together. And that's what life's about. It's about being fully aware and present. And that only happens when we make the decision to organize our life what matters most. And that's going to be different. Yeah, I just came back from being in Conception Island, 100 miles from any living being. In fact, we were there. The only thing we had were at night. We had sharks around us. We had dolphin during the day. We swam with the dolphin. These are not dolphin from SeaWorld. They're literally dolphin that come up to the boat to hear what's going on because there's no people and they're curious. And we're in the water with them in a very natural state. And that kind of life I live because I do the work to provide that for myself and for others. So I'm excited tonight. We have people, as you said, just starting this journey. And people have been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. And I can tell you that it's worth the juice. The juice and the squeeze together can create things that are just unbelievable. And that's for everybody, by the way. It's not just for those that are chiropractors or critical care physicians. It's for anyone that raises their hand and says, "You know what? I want better health." And it starts there.
I love that, Dr. A. I was checking in with clients and coaches today, and I said I was super excited that Dr. A was going to be on our community call tonight. And their number one thing was, I can't wait to tell him thank you. Thank you for what he has created and the things that have changed in my life because of our 4 components. And so that leads me into, what does it mean to have an Optavia coach, along with what is the difference between an Optavia coach and a traditional coach?
Yeah, no, that's really important. And it actually starts with one of the things I'm going to talk about a lot this weekend is the idea of the bio network. And when I first looked and left critical care, I wanted to understand what actually allows people to be successful because diets don't work. 85% of people that go on a diet gain their weight back within 2 years. In fact, if you've been on a diet, you're more likely to be overweight or obese than if you haven't. That's not good news. So clearly there's more to it. And so for me, I kind of put on my lab coat and my spectacles and looked and did an investigation of what works and what doesn't work. And what works is an empathetic coach that cares about you, not someone trying to tell you what to do, someone that tells you, and by the way, I know, Mike, for you as a chiropractor, they would come in for asking for advice and you tell them, but most people wouldn't do what you say. They basically just say, "I'll see you next month because my back's going to be hurting again," right? So what I found, and one of the most important things and what defines us, and about 15 years ago, I introduced the term empathetic coaching. And that's all about autonomy supportive. And what that means is when you actually reach out and find out what's important to someone else, that's your best opportunity to awaken them. And so we talk about intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation simply has 3 components. The first being is something a person is passionate about. Second is something they want to become good at because they love it. And the third is they want to share it with others. So the idea of an Optavia coach is different than just being a coach. It's not someone going up one down. It's someone who is most likely shared in the same challenges, had the same things happen to him, lives in the same planet. We all live in that same planet. And bottom line, empathetically, finds out what's most important and starts there. Because, the journey of a lifetime starts with one step. And you better find a step the person wants to do, and then you better help them create some type of success, what we call self-efficacy, so they start having gains in their life. Because without gains, people get discouraged. And what we know is it's very difficult to create long-term health and well-being in this world. So an Optavia coach is a special individual who has most likely had the challenges first. And so the idea of bio network, when I created, I actually made that up, means to heal yourself from the inside and then reach out and help others. By doing that, actually by helping others helps you become more successful because when you teach something, then you're more likely to learn it. And so that combination is very powerful, very dynamic. So it's not someone like, you used to be, you have a 250-pound overweight physician sitting behind his chair, sedentary lifestyle, eating a hot fudge sundae telling you to get healthy. That doesn't really work.
Yes, I agree with that. And honestly, that same concept I use as a mom with my kids, because telling them and compared to like this thing that you always talk about, I love that. And it's the same concept. And that's what Optavia has given me also.
Yeah, no, that and that's what's so, Amy, what's so great about this, we're humans, and this is about humans being more. It's about us actually being in position where we care about each other because what's happened is technological advancements has created a isolationism. We spend more time on text, very little time in conversation, very little time listening to each other, and everybody is so busy running on the hamster wheel that we're not spending that empathetic time. And when you learn as a coach early on that, this works for me, I love it, I covet it. And bottom line, although this call is for clients, our coaches, that are successful and have lost significant weight, some of them have been with me, basically over 20 years and they're healthy, they're vibrant, and they're living life the way they choose. And, for me, I still helicopter ski. Why? Because I can. I couldn't do that 20 years ago. I literally didn't have the skill and didn't have the endurance and probably didn't have the real attitude for it. And now I can do those things because bottom line is it's really here. And when you're in an environment where everybody is working together, pulling for each other, that's what the Bio Network, what our Optavia communities become. That's what this call is tonight, to gather all of you guys and really work together. We don't guarantee that you'll be successful. What we do is create the best possible chance, and what I like to call it is predictable transformation. A friend of mine, Marshall Thurber, who basically is he was the guy, the Rich Dad and Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you ever listen or read any of Kiyosaki's books, he basically is a very brilliant guy, studied under some of the Buckminster Fuller and some of the most brilliant people. He talks about predictable transformation. And what that means is that if you actually do the things that are offered to you, you will change it predictably and you will transform your health and your life. If you follow, you start, Amy, with the four components. If you follow the four components and you're actually willing to do the work comes from you, not from us. We're here to simply awaken you and put you in position and to guide you. The work has to come from you. And if you want to create long-term health, that's about you becoming more responsible and learning to become the dominant force in your life. That's what we're about, just like you do with your kids. You got some rambunctious kids, as I know, and heard the stories. Hey, mine were the same. Bottom line is you have to treat them, certainly within guidelines, but you have to treat them as a fellow human. You can't just say, well, I'm your dad and do this because I say that's what I want you to do. That's maybe how we grew up. That doesn't work anymore in this day and age. And you want the people you care about to feel that you have rapport with them. They respect you and they want to come to you because the bottom line is with your kids, Amy and Mike, they know that you love them more than any of their friends. And even though they're in that period where they're going through their teenage years, they love their friends and they want to be with their friends. They still think you're pretty cool. And you're learning those skill sets to be better moms and dads, just like we're learning to be better coaches.
Yeah.
I call that the ripple effect, right? When you start to get healthy, then everyone in your life, your family, your kids, everyone starts to see that ripple effect go into them.
Yeah.
So,
Dr. A, you alluded to this or mentioned it earlier, but I literally like 20 minutes ago just got off of a client call with a gentleman who's just having amazing success, and he has taken advantage of the opportunity to pay this forward for other people. And he sent me a text earlier today, and he's helping one lady, and it's transforming her life, and she's down, another 65 pounds, I believe already. But he talked about what it was doing for him and his journey. And I think sometimes it can be misunderstood what the coaching opportunity really offers us as clients, as people. You talked about embracing this identity, that real lifestyle change is actually identity change. And I know that this model originated in more of a healthcare kind of model, and you evolved it beyond that to where one human could just go help another human. And I think it would be powerful for people to hear your insight on where that came from and why you brought that into the opportunity to get healthy.
Yeah, no, that's great, Mike. I love that. And the reality is we're all in our own construct, we're all in our own world. And I've watched over the years that when we really reach out and help others, Martin Luther King said this a long time ago, was one of his quotes. When you're in the service of others, that's when true life really begins. And most of us never get there because we're in survival mode. We have so much going on, dysfunctional, and we don't have good control and flexibility within our minds. So one of the areas, I looked at, I started off when I first left critical care to go do this. I focused on how do I help people lose weight, right? That's where it started, and that's why I picked Medifast as a partner because I knew I'd seen several physicians use it in their practice, and I saw that people would lose weight. Now, the majority of these people gained their weight back because that's all they did. They used it as a diet, and diets don't work, even as great as ours is. Ours is a great catalyst. It works well. The 5-in-1 is incredible because you're using healthy food. You're eating every 3 hours. You're not hungry. It works, by the way. It's superior to any of these GLP-1 medications. I want to be really clear. The GLP medications are giving you temporary willpower, but that's going to go away over time. If you learn right from the beginning to eat smaller incremental meals, you learn to now fix a lean and green, which allows you to create healthy choices. You turn off your insulin system, you start creating metabolic health. Metabolic health now is becoming the buzzword. When I wrote Habits Health in 2008, the first version, I said the key parameter of all of this is insulin. Insulin is the key modulator that creates everything. If we don't turn off our insulin, then we are going to find out that we're going to struggle. And what we're finding now is metabolic health is so critical that basically 50% of the world has insulin resistance, and probably somewhere around 70 to 80% of Americans because of the processed food. Our insulin levels, we develop insulin resistance because of stress, excessive insulin production, and inflammation. All three things that are characteristically found in most Americans, in 3/4 of us. So the bottom line is what I looked at is what really matters. And what matters the most is emotional mismanagement. We have a tendency not to have the psychological flexibility. Something happens to us and we go into the victim mentality. That's perpetuated. People looking to blame. All you have to do is go on TV and watch pretty much any news station. Everybody's pointing their fingers at everybody else. It's amazing how the other side is always wrong and we're always right. That's not how life works. Life is about small incremental improvements where you actually look and say to yourself, what if the opposite was true? What if what I'm thinking really is not true and the opposite is true? And that's the first step because what I like to talk about is being open, curious, and want to grow. And that's what we do. At the teachable moment, for all of those of you that are losing weight, and by the way, I heard someone say Dr. A's book was, what I'm talking about is the themes throughout all of my books, including, the latest one, which we're about ready to actually have available, called My Prescription for Life. And what I did is I looked with very seriousness at the GLP market because all of a sudden everybody's going on these medications and people are losing weight. And I'm watching people with a sour look with the Ozempic face and Ozempic butt. And I'm looking and saying, my goodness, most of these people are randomly taking this with no regards other than taking a shot. And they're not eating, they're starving, they're not working out, they're literally still eating half a donut rather than the whole donut. And basically, so I wrote this book around the same themes that I've been talking about and evolving for almost over 2 decades, almost 24 years now. And that theme is that you got to do the work. For those of you just getting started, don't think the 5-in-1 by itself is going to handle all your problems. Don't think that the GLP-1 injection is going to handle all your problems. It's not. It is simply one tool in the armamentarium, which requires you to what we talked about initially, to become a healthy person. Now, when I say healthy person, I'm not just talking about you as a client. I'm talking about you and what you do for a living. For many people, if they work I watched a funny movie last night, saw years ago with a friend of mine called Horrible Bosses. I don't know if you ever saw it, but they had terrible bosses and they decided they were going to kill them. And I thought, well, and sometimes if you're in an environment where you hate your job, you basically hate the people around you, you've got a boss that's a real, maybe you have to move on beyond that. And so that's one of the beauties of what we do in Optavia and in general. We help people organize their life for what matters most, We then work on them first, starting with the physical part, because how you are physically, how you are mentally determines your success in life. And if the bottom line is you look at that, if you're not able to build a psychological flexibility to deal with a boss or a job or commute 2 hours a day or whatever the adversity is, then you know what? What's cool about what we do, become a coach. The beauty of it is we reach out and help others. And by doing that, it's the most beautiful model of business. And just like for you guys, I mean, I've been working with you guys now for several years, and I've helped you become successful. You will be more successful in this as far as a business than I will say in not too long a period of time. That's what this is about, giving people the opportunity to truly do something they love, work on it, and become better at it. And that identity starts first with how you change your standards. It's a weekly iterative process. Wherever you are now, if you go, well, I'm not gonna eat a pizza because I know I won't lose weight, but I'm denying myself to the point where over time I'm a healthy person and I don't eat pizza because I choose not to, because it doesn't support my health, and supporting my health is something that's more important. So what we look at is organize your life around what matters most. And I can tell you that your health, I watch as a critical care physician, people of all levels, from car accidents, from 20-year-olds up to 80-year-olds that would look at me and basically in their last breaths, wish they could have another day. And we forget that every one of our choices and how we put ourselves in what environment we put ourselves in is more likely to determine the outcome of whether we succeed in life, first in a physical, a mental, and a psychological state, and as well as how successful we are. And all those are possible when we're in an environment where we're conducive and working together. And so that's kind of been the theme. I created the underlying structure of this from the very beginning about reaching health yourself and then adding to that and reaching out and helping others.
I love that. And there's lots of things in the chat right now, but they're talking about the habits of health, and that's the game changer. I call it the secret sauce, honestly. And as you wrote that book, I feel like when I'm reading my life book and the habits of health, I'm actually having coffee with Dr. A, and you're sitting across from me and asking me those questions and those deep questions so I can journal and write in the book. And I do feel like with Optavia, that's the part that nobody else has, because you said it, the mental shift. And that's where that life book comes into play. And now you have the new GLP-1 book out, and I'm super excited to get a hold of that and share that with clients and to talk to them and guide them through that also. What do you feel what drove you to, I know that it took a lot of thoughts and action and time with that habits of health book. And
Yeah, well, I wrote the first one in 2008, and I wrote it, I left practice in 2001, and started this journey, and then created this, which has become Optavia. In 2002, it evolved in 2003 to go on the New York Stock Exchange and start becoming successful. But when I first looked at it, I looked at it from a physician's standpoint, from a pure physical standpoint. And then I realized over time, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, right? They know what they're supposed to do, but most people are trying to go do the quick fix, right? And there are no quick fixes. In fact, one of the things that I kind of my manifesto is based in science. So everything you'll see, in fact, if you look in the back of this book, the last 20 pages are all the citations. It goes on. I mean, the references, go on and on and on. There's 200 plus references because anything I say, it's based in clinical studies that are refereed, not just someone just saying something. That's the problem with the internet. Everybody can just say something and they sell it on the internet and it becomes reality. So I wanted to make sure that I based everything on science, but not voiced in science. And that's why I love that you said that, because that was the whole goal. And that's the goal even more in this book. This book is even simpler, but it's actually to reach out. And by the way, this book isn't just for people on GLP-1. This is for anyone considering or has a friend on it. This book basically is about deciding whether they're right for you. And they may not be right for you. In fact, I can tell you that the traditional program we created that includes basically having a coach, having the Habits Health Transformational System, having this healthy community and having these products and programs. That by itself actually is just as effective over time, is a lot healthier for you, and basically puts you in position to be learning right from the beginning how to do the things that are necessary. So the traditional program is the same. In fact, what I call that in here is my prescription for life, the prescription for life. The prescription for now is if you decide, tongue in cheek, to use the medications, that's great. But knowing from day one, we're going to use them as an advantage to get your mind right because they help control your willpower. You're not quite as susceptible, and to get your body right because now you're losing weight. But if you're not gaining muscle, you're not eating properly, you're not exercising, you're not sleeping well, you're not handling stress well, you're going to find out over time the drugs stop working and then you're going to be back where you were before. And most probably with a body composition that puts you at more higher risk for poor health. So the bottom line is, yeah, the Habits of Health is my gift to the world. And it's something I coveted. It took me 4 years, by the way. It took me 2 years to write the first one and 4 years to write the second one, which became a system because I didn't want to just make another edition. I wanted to evolve it to the point, and the Life book was a result of that. And it's now probably the most popular piece and is a fulcrum. It's probably a more powerful tool than the GLP-1s. If you truly go through your Life book and you work with your coach and you learn in small little micro habits those things in the key 6 macro habits, and you start to move forward, you will sustain lifestyle change, which becomes predictable and over time gives you the full power necessary where your identity becomes you are now a healthy person. That requires work. It's going to require your work, but I can tell you this. I learned this a long time ago, and you know this with your kids. If you give your kids something they don't appreciate, if they work for it, then it means so much more. And working to create and become a healthy person for your identity to go to someone that really didn't focus on. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you. Your biological design, your 100,000-year-old design was designed to store energy, and minimize energy expenditure so you could survive. Because my house is automated and but you can still see me, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can.
yeah.
All the lights just went down. I've got an automated system that has a mind of its own. It's like Ghost in the system. But anyway, the whole point being, boy, it made me red though. I better turn that back on. Give me a
This is what's beautiful, is that
Yes.
part of what we learned in the Habit Cell system is a twilight hour.
Yeah.
And um,
And
and
that's what that is.
my team and your twilight hours built into your house.
No, exactly right. In fact, let me just so I have my desk is illuminated. I love gadgets. I love to create stuff. And so let me just turn the desk light down. There we go. And the task light's down. And I can do that on my phone. So I can control all those things, right from the phone. So I love technology, and don't get me wrong. Technology allows us to do amazing things. I mean, I was in Conception Island out in the middle of the ocean, but because of Starlink, I was able to communicate, do calls, do leadership events, and do things otherwise I wouldn't be able to go there. But the point is, we have to be the dominant force and put technology in its place and use it as a force to help us, not to hurt us. And so that's what's critical about it. So the Habits of Health is literally a blueprint to help you create long-term health and well-being, because one of the things about that is that it's a continual journey. We never reach optimal health. As we get older, our buffer systems deteriorate, and if we're not taking an active role, we will find that over time we will lose ground. And that's why so many people, as they get in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, they don't really understand, why is this happening to me? Why is my metabolic health? Why do I not have metabolic flexibility? Why am I tired all the time? And they're looking to go to their doctor and get a B12 shot. This does not work. What works, and the most important, and the thing for all of you listening tonight, which I absolutely love, decide to be open, curious, and want to grow. Figure out what's important to you. Organize your life on what matters most. Find the things you value the most, and one of those better be your health. Because I can tell you, it may be a little inconvenient now to go out and go for a walk, to exercise, to do a little weight resistance training. But if you lower your health and you build sarcopenia and you have flabby, soft muscles, and you're in your 50s, 60s, and you fall and hurt yourself, you'll find that it's very inconvenient to have to go to 7 doctors, every week to be taken care of. So it's really important for us to realize we're the ones that are responsible for our health and our well-being and to learn those things. And that's what we're here for in this community. We're all at different levels of understanding of that. And I can tell you that for me, being part of this and helping to kind of organize and lead through the habits of health is a tapestry that no one else offers. That is exclusive to Optavia. I designed that as the co-founder of Optavia. I designed that for our community, and it's the damn best out there. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that with full humility because I know, and you guys know, it changes lives. And for me, you may think, well, why? You've been doing this for 24 years. Why are you still excited? Because of exactly the calls you guys just talked about that you had today. The reinforcement, the gratitude, that people are so grateful that finally they have a methodology that really works. And it's not tree bark from the Amazon or blue-green algae from a volcano. It's truly learning the principles of creating health and well-being.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. A. We just so appreciate your willingness to spend some time with us, and your heart for this mission is evident every time we're together. So, hey, everyone, join us next week again for another episode of Let's Talk. We're going to be diving into some of the intricacies of element 16 and going from floundering to flourishing, and learning how to navigate element 16 around food addiction. So thanks for joining us tonight. Remember, all of these are put onto podcasts so that you can enjoy them at your convenience. Thank you again, Dr. A, and we'll see you all next week.
Appreciate you, Dr. A. We'll see you soon.
See you guys. Bye.